Welcome back to the Retro Tech Zone, your source for the latest retro handheld news. Let's get into it. The Anbernic RG557 is now for sale for $250 US. The early bird pricing no longer applies. It was only $15 off for the first 3 days. Kind of weird. So it's $250 US for the base model. It has 256 gigabytes of internal storage, so that upgraded $30 256 gig card might be worth it for you because it has a lot of preloaded ROMs on it. Reviews have been coming out on the RG557 and it seems to be unanimously considered one of the most comfortable retro handhelds out there. It also seems to unanimously have tiny analog sticks and a very unoptimized chipset. It has a lot of horsepower, apparently not being fully utilized. The high performance mode isn't currently giving it the top performance. Somebody else did some tweaking and unlocked like an extra 10% performance, so I don't even know. It seems like some early struggles with a newer device. I don't think a lot of people are going to be picking up the RG557, I'm going to be honest. When you hit $250, then you start running up against, you know, the Odin 2 line, and Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 versus Dimensity chipset, I'm taking Snapdragon every day of the week. If you are interested in picking up an RG557, there's no more early bird pricing, so you're getting MSRP, $250 US. Keep that in mind. You might be able to get like a used Odin 2 for $250 US, so I might take that option, given that it has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which unlocks a lot more Switch and a lot more Windows emulation. In other Anbernic news, the Anbernic RG34XX is coming in May. Details have leaked on the long-awaited variant of the RG35XX, of which I have way too many of them. I have 3. The 35XX can easily be considered the most popular budget handheld of late last year. So the 34XX has the same exact processor and a slightly smaller body with a 3.4-inch display. With that smaller body, it's gonna much closer resemble the original Game Boy Advance SP that it's kind of bootlegged off of, and also the Miyoo Flip. They're all gonna be that kind of slimmer, pocket-friendly flip. This is a little bit outside of the pocket-friendly. It's kind of thicky. It should also have the newer Anbernic buttons that aren't as clicky as the 35XX, and hopefully it doesn't have the same battery explosion problem, because that was not fun. It sounds like Anbernic ironed all that out by now, and they're kind of getting into the groove of it. They have 10 handhelds planned for 2025, and they've only released one so far with the RG557. So this is gonna be number 2 on the board, and they got 8 to come. The price is stated to be less than 400 yuan or less than $55 US. That should make it very competitive to be the best budget handheld in the market right now, next to the Battle XP G350, which is also kind of Anbernic, and the TrimUI brick. That is just a whole nother level of quality. I really love the brick. So keep your eyes peeled for Anbernic's very well named RG34XX coming next month. Over in tariff news, because that's a thing now, Retroid updates their US shipping policy for US customers. US orders are only going to see about a $20 increase as Retroid moves to a different shipping partner on April 27th. This is again for US orders only. So as Retroid was figuring out those new shipping logistics for US orders, they were also prioritizing shipping US orders as soon as possible for the Flip 2 and the Pocket Classic. And now they're shifting their focus to all remaining non-US orders that were placed before April 25th. They're looking to fulfill the rest of the Flip 2 orders by the end of this week. As for the Pocket Classic, they're expected to have the Classic 6, Pokemon Yellow, Retro, and Atomic Purple orders fulfilled by the end of next week. There were 3 colors of the Classic that were put on pause: Kiwi, Berry, and Teal, and those will start shipping again on May 5th. So lots of shimmying around in the Retroid world, but it's really good to see that they're staying on top of things and keeping us all updated throughout this process. Over in Ayn news, I know that they paused US shipments after April 25th as they're trying to choose a new shipper. It sounds like they're setting themselves a deadline of May 5th to choose a new channel for shipping. And given that Ayn and Retroid are kind of like the same company, but they're not, but maybe they are, it seems like they'll probably end up with a similar deal. Hopefully just a $20 increase for US orders. Retro catalog filters are now improved. It's not the world's biggest story, but it's a story nonetheless, and I love this website. This is my go-to site for cross-comparing different handhelds. It's the most in-depth lexicon of information about every retro handheld in the scene. They added 5 new filters to the website that include thumbstick layout, shoulder button layout, D-pad placement, 6-face button layout, and metal body. I'm gonna be looking at the metal body filter for sure. They've also added a pros and cons section in each handheld page. If you're ever looking for a one-stop shop for all the information about a retro handheld that you're interested in, retrocatalog.com is the place to be, especially with all the new filters and features too. This website goes so hard. Over in Nintendo news, Switch 2 pre-orders went live last Wednesday at midnight or Thursday morning if you went to GameStop. Let me know if you picked up a Switch 2 last week and how you got your hands on yours. And if you didn't, then sound off in the comments below. I waited at my local GameStop for about an hour and a half to get mine, and at the last second I pivoted to the Mario Kart bundle because I kind of decided that that game is just not worth collecting. There's going to be so many copies out there, and it's not one that I feel particularly attached to, so I'd rather save the $30 and just get a Mario Kart, you know? I'll probably regret doing that in 50 years. But anyways, speaking of pre-orders, somebody got diabolically schemed on eBay in this Reddit post. Important disclosure, you are purchasing a black and white printed picture of my Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order confirmation. You will not receive a console. No returns, no refunds, no scalping on this side. You gotta love seeing this. There's been a lot of Reddit vigilantes who've been deploying this tactic to crack down on pre-order bots and scalping bots. These scalpers have just been letting them crawl around and instantly snipe all of these pre-orders. So hopefully this shows them a little bit of a lesson, and hopefully the unsuspecting gamer doesn't get a little quick on the trigger and accidentally buy it. Over in game news, Oblivion Remastered was finally released. This was the worst kept secret in the gaming world. We all knew that this was coming, and of course they shadow dropped it on Tuesday. It retails for $50 US base or $60 deluxe horse armor edition with gameplay DLCs, and it's been having an insane response. People have been loving this. At the time of recording, it has 24,000 reviews on Steam with a very positive average. It sold over 4 million copies in the last week, and in the last 24 hours, it had a peak concurrent player base of over 200,000 players, just shy of 50,000 above Monster Hunter Wilds. The Oblivion remake is just on a tear right now. I hesitate to call it a remaster because it was pretty much remade entirely in Unreal Engine 5 and then fused with the original Oblivion logic and lines and everything. So it's kind of like a chimera of the two. Unfortunately, it is a huge game at over 100 gigabytes. No longer the 10 gigabyte download we used to have, and it doesn't run too well on handheld PCs like the Steam Deck. That's kind of the nature of these higher end Unreal Engine 5 games. They're really just designed to go pedal to the metal, look as good as possible. They have a lot of ray tracing going on. This is a very modern game that's kind of designed for modern systems, like a high-end PC, high-end Xbox, or PS5. And again, for $50, this is a remake that's absolutely worth picking up, and you can actually get it even cheaper on Fnatic, I think for around $42. I'm not sure how long that sale is gonna last, but $42 for an entirely remade Oblivion, that is just endless gameplay. With a pretty insane character creator as well. I've seen some real nightmare fuel character creations. Over in port news, Portmaster has reached over 1,000 ports for Linux devices. This is an insane milestone, and it really shows the effort that the porting community is putting in behind the scenes. I know I got a few of you in the comments, and a big shout out to anyone who's porting games to Portmaster. Really just doing the community such a great service. Now, if you haven't heard of Portmaster, Portmaster essentially brings full-fledged Windows games and ports from other consoles to your Linux handhelds, like our retro handhelds. If you haven't checked out Portmaster and you do have an Anbernic device or Powkiddy, any other Linux handheld, definitely check out Portmaster. I can almost guarantee that you'd be interested in at least one of those 1,000 ports. And the game of the week is Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance. An absolutely amazing game that kind of reinvigorated the 2D Metroid series. If you haven't played it before, or even if you have, I highly recommend checking it out, replaying a little bit of it, and just re-experiencing those very intense moments, the great storytelling, the atmosphere, the colors. The game as a whole is just very, very crisp, and it's pretty short too. It's only a couple hours, so you can definitely steam through it in a weekend. I'm a little bit biased to Metroid Zero Mission. That's kind of my baby. I could play that game forever, but Metroid Fusion is a very close second. But that's the game of the week, and that's our news for the week. Comment your game of the week in the comments below. What game have you been playing, and on what console? If you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more handheld gaming news and reviews, and I will see you in the next one. Later.